Buck is holding it up for those of you watching on video. Jack Carr's newest book, Red Sky Mourning, that is out and will and already is, I'm sure, another monster bestseller. Jack, I think the last time we saw you was in Park City. We had a meet up. It was awesome to get to see you in person. The books are phenomenal. I'm curious for you, how has the process of writing these books changed, if at all, for you? And as they get more popular, does that make you feel more pressure or less? Because I imagine when you sat down and wrote the first one, you're like, man, I hope people are going to read it. Now that you know millions of people are reading, more or less pressure for each new book?
Well, I hadn't thought about it in those terms until you just mentioned it. So now I'm feeling the pressure.
Now you're rattled in your head. I take it back. You're going to have to get a sports psychologist for writing. But it is kind of got to be amazing to go from nothing to millions of people reading your books every single time they come out.
Yeah, it's always about learning. It's always about getting better. In the military, I was a student of warfare. My whole life I've been a student of warfare, trying to prepare myself to be the best leader and operator I could be in the SEAL teams because I knew I wanted to do that from a very early age. And then same thing with writing. My mom's a librarian, so I grew up surrounded by books and love of reading. So I got to experience all these amazing authors without the filters that come maybe down the line with age and other distractions and responsibilities. So I was reading like Nelson DeMille, A.J. Quinnell, J.C. Pollock, Mark Olden, Tom Clancy, all these guys that were masters of the craft and were really my professors in the art of storytelling. So I had this solid foundation, and my process, the only way that it has really changed over the years is that I remain a student of the craft, and I am focused on getting better and better with each one. So I want the next book to be better than Red Sky Mourning. I want my next social post to add more value to someone's lives than the one before it. The next blog, same thing. Next podcast, same. So I'm always looking at ways to add value to people's lives because they're trusting me with time they're never getting back, and that's something I take extremely seriously. So it's always about constant improvement for me.
It's how we try to approach radio too, Jack. We are very blessed that people give us the time that they do, and certainly you're very blessed that people give you the time they do with reading these fantastic books. Terminal List series has been a huge success, stretching back for years now. Many books, and I'm wondering, James Reese, obviously he's the central character once again in this one, played memorably by Chris Pratt, one of my favorite actors out there in Hollywood, in the Amazon version of the Terminal List season 1. Can you give us is there any talk, any scuttlebutt about Terminal List season 2 at some point, or where do things stand?
Yeah, so we're, Amazon will never share the exact numbers with us and that data. All the streaming services hold that data close hold, but the indications are that it was quite successful, which is why we have 2 shows in the works right now. One, a prequel origin story that we're filming in Budapest. Actually, just got back from Budapest, was over there for about 2 weeks filming, stopped by the Normandy D-Day 80th anniversary commemoration events for another 2 weeks with 48 World War II veterans. Just got back 2 days ago, and I'll be heading back to Budapest to continue filming the prequel origin story after book tour, which kicks off here this Monday.
Well, that is awesome. If you ever need 2 media radio consultants on set in Budapest, you let us know. If there's a character that's in the media or something, we're very cheap dates. You just bring us over there and we'll advise as best we can.
Let's do it. Actually, you guys would love it over there. It's really interesting. I was there before I went into the Navy, so I was there in 1994. This is my first time back since 1994, and it's amazing how much money is in Budapest right now. You see Russian money, you see Ukrainian money that I'm guessing is actually our money, and Chinese money. And the hotel I was staying at, there are 2 Lamborghinis every day, 2 Ferraris, 2 Bentleys, Porsches are a dime a dozen. It is absolutely incredible to see, and it's a very clean, safe city. I had to do a long walk across the city one night after viewing actually episode 1 at a buddy's place across town. And I had previously, about a month and a half, 2 months earlier, walked across New York because I thought that the Times Square Cafe was close to Times Square. And so I thought I'll just walk, a couple blocks to my hotel. And it turns out that maybe at one point it was, but now it seems like it was across the city. So I felt like I was on E&E as I made my way back to my hotel near the actual Times Square from the Times Square Cafe. But it's an amazing city, remarkable how clean and safe it is. So it'll probably make its way into a future novel, but gives us a lot to work with as far as the locations as well for the show.
Jack, as a guy you mentioned who studied military history, and obviously you served, and I'm sure learned so much of that as the process. What was it like to be in Normandy for the 80th anniversary of D-Day? And as someone who is a military historian, what did walking that ground do for you in terms of crystallizing what actually took place in that day, on that day 80 years ago, and all the days that followed it as they advanced across France?
Yes, I mean, it's my fourth time there. First when I was young, 1994. I went back 2002 and went back for the 78th as well, 78th anniversary commemoration events 2 years ago with the Best Defense Foundation, which is a foundation that takes World War II veterans back to the battlefields on which they fought. Did that with my daughter, actually, who is she's 18 now, so she was with me now for this one on the 80th. And we had 48 World War II veterans, all of them near, at, or over 100 years old. So
Wow.
You're volunteering, helping, getting them in and out of their wheelchairs, to and from their rooms, making sure that they're eating, making sure they're taking their medicine, making sure getting them to all these different events. Because it's about 2 weeks of events. It's not just June 6th. It is a full 2 week event, 2 weeks of events. And that's pretty tiring for someone that's 100 years old. But to be there and to have my daughter actually talking to someone on Omaha Beach who was first out of his landing craft that day, and to have him pointing out the machine gun positions on the cliffs above and telling her that story, and me watching it and listening, it's just something I can't really put into words. But what was evident in the 78th and also for this 80th that stands out to me the most is how people of France, northern France, have not forgotten what was done for them by the Americans. There are more American flags in northern France during June than I've ever seen on the 4th of July in the United States. 82nd Airborne flags, 101st Airborne flags. Everyone's dressed up in period military uniforms, military jeeps from the 40s everywhere, old Indian and Harley-Davidson motorcycles from that era. It is absolutely incredible, and you can see it in their eyes. And it's not just the older people, it's the young ones, and that's what stands out. They have passed on this gratitude down multi-generational now. And we went to a school visit, so age, let's say 5 up to, let's say 13, and flags everywhere, and they just want to touch these veterans, shake their hands, look them in the eye, say thank you. We have baseball cards with the veterans' pictures on it and their stats on the back for what they did in World War II, getting signatures. These guys are totally treated like rock stars over there, and I can't help but think that it would be a little different here in the United States if they showed up at a school here. But to see that, I wish every American could see what goes on in Normandy in June. And after the last of these guys are gone in a few years, I bet they still pass those lessons on, because they've done it since the 40s, and it is just as powerful now as it was when I saw it in the 78th, and they continue to pass this down through the generation. So that's pretty cool to see.
We got a number one rec here for you right now for a book for today. Isn't Father's Day coming up soon? Hey, there you go. Jack Carr. My father-in-law is a big Jack Carr reader, so I got to get all the good Jack Carr stuff and send it along, because he reads them voraciously. Jack Carr, Red Sky Mourning. I'm holding it up here, the latest in the James Reese thriller series of The Terminalist. It's phenomenal. Obviously, legitimately, I saw every episode of the Terminalist on Amazon. It was great. We talked to you about that. We saw you in Utah, and the prequel story in Budapest sounds really cool. And I've always wanted to go to Budapest. Just as an aside, you were talking about being in Normandy, obviously very moving, historically so poignant and powerful. I gave Clay a recommendation. We all know Saving Private Ryan, amazing movie. We all know Band of Brothers, amazing TV series, right? Like, we put those aside just because I assume everybody listening has seen those pretty much. Like, I don't think anybody has missed either of those. But I said for Clay, if you want something World War II that is a little less well, one that he hadn't seen and one that was less well known, I gave him, I'm forgetting, Hacksaw Ridge.
Hacksaw Ridge.
And I gave him Hacksaw Ridge and Downfall in the original German language. What would you, for this weekend, if somebody wanted to watch something World War II based, Jack, while they're taking a break from reading Red Sky Mourning, what would you tell them? What would be your rec?
I mean, you got to go back and rewatch Band of Brothers for your family. If your kids haven't seen it, watch Band of Brothers in its entirety with your family. That would be the number one recommendation. But what's really interesting is that when we think about those movies, we think about Saving Private Ryan, we think about The Longest Day. If people haven't seen The Longest Day from the 60s in black and white, you should go back and watch that. But because Tom Hanks, let's say, what was he when he made that Saving Private Ryan, like 45-ish, somewhere in there. Same thing with Longest Day. John Wayne's in The Longest Day. But then you think about the ages of these guys that stormed the beaches at Normandy and that jumped out of the planes and came in the gliders in June of 1944. They weren't those ages. They were young. I was with guys this past week that lied about their age to get in. They were 15 years old. They lied to get in to fight. You have kids storming the beaches at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. That's the age of the people that fought their way into France, across France, into Germany, all the way to Berlin. And we tend to forget how young they were when we think about, because of Hollywood, because of the power of popular culture and Tom Hanks and John Wayne and all these people that starred in these World War II films. They were a lot older typically than the kids who actually fought and won the war.
No doubt. That's an amazing way to finish. One last question for you. You're talking about making the television shows, writing the books, getting better. How do you balance your time? You got kids. You've got so many different obligations now. Success can bring more obligations and opportunities. What's advice for you to people out there trying to balance work life? They have different jobs, but what have you found to be useful with all the things that you've got going on right now?
Well, I'm still working on it because there's so much going on. It's insanity. You're out here all the time, 3 kids, wife, dog, getting the kids to camps, getting them to school. So typically what I need is uninterrupted time in order to write, which now happens when everyone else is asleep. So that happens between 10 at night and 3 in the morning. So there's some things that are just going to fall off the list, like maybe nutrition, sleep, and working out. So those things need to be added back in here eventually, but at this phase, it's been all building. It's been a full-on sprint. It's been obviously putting all my heart and soul into every single word that goes into any one of these books or a blog post or whatever I'm doing. So I'm still working on that. So advice being is that prioritize and execute. Same thing as the battlefield. So I had to focus on this book till it was the best it could possibly be, then got that to New York, switch over, start working on scripts for the show, focus on that, and then boom, move over to the next thing. I have my first nonfiction coming out in the fall of the 1983 Beirut barracks bombing. So that comes out in September. And so there's a lot of things going on, but I need to focus on one at a time. There's some overlap in there, but I find that I need to focus on one thing at a time and then move to the next project rather than continue to juggle a gazillion things at once. Because there's going to be other things you have to juggle. You can't just focus on one thing in life and neglect family, neglect everything. There's some things you have to, but professionally focusing on one, getting that the best it can possibly be before switching gears to the other.
Jack, keep it up. We love it. Know how busy you are. Appreciate the time. Good luck in the new stories coming out, and definitely that book coming out in the fall. Nonfiction sounds fantastic. Appreciate the time. Thanks for everything you did on with all the veterans.
Thanks so much. You guys take care.
Thank you.
Jack Carr, new book, Red Sky at Morning. It's out. Also, we want to tell you as we go into break here, final break of the week, on any given day in the cities, towns, and villages in Israel, you're likely to hear air raid sirens warning people of incoming missiles. It's something we can't really imagine here in the United States. It's a way of life for Israelis. It's one of the reasons we're partnering with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, the IFCJ. This is an organization going the distance to show Israelis they're not alone, that people halfway around the world care about them, their safety. Join us and stand with the IFCJ. This month, we're asking you to sign a pledge, which will be delivered to the president of Israel to show Christians and Jews in America are supporting them in their time of need. I'm going to be over in Israel early in August doing the radio show there to help show that indication of support as well. You can sign the pledge. Go to supportifcj.org. That's supportifcj.org.